I thought the baby monitor was off. Until I heard my husband and my best friend whispering my name. Not joking, not laughing. Whispering. Like people do when they know what they're saying could change everything. Let me tell you what betrayal actually sounds like. It doesn't crash in like a car wreck. It creeps. It comes in the form of breathy half-sentences at 2:43 a.m., filtered through cheap plastic and static. It comes when you're barefoot, braless, rocking your baby in the dark with one arm while blindly fumbling with a forgotten dial on an old-school baby monitor. We'd been using a fancy camera for the nursery, one of those sleek ones with the app and the night vision and the cute chime when it connects. But it went offline last week. Wi-Fi bug or firmware update, who knows? I didn't think much of it. Until that night, when I reached for the backup we'd stashed away in a moving box. The old Motorola radio we hadn't touched since the baby shower. Just wanted to hear her breathing, you know. I was rocking her in the glider, her warm little head resting on my shoulder, the soft snuffle of milk sleep just starting to settle in. And then click. At first I thought I picked up a neighbor. Interference happens with old monitors. But then I heard my name. Ellie can't know about this. I went perfectly still. Not the freeze you do when a baby startles. The other kind. The kind your body does when your brain says, run, but your soul says, listen. The voice was Jack's. My husband. Then came hers. She never asked for details anyway. That's the scary part. Tara. My best friend, my bridesmaid. My so-called postpartum support system. My entire chest caved in. Because I knew that tone. That low whisper women use when they're holding a secret by the stem, trying not to crush it, but not letting it go either. They were in the next room. Literally. The spare room we'd set up as a guest space, when Tara offered to crash for a while to help me after the birth. I hadn't thought twice. Of course she could stay. She was my person. She held my hair when I puked through the second trimester. She massaged my lower back at 4 a.m. while I groaned through early labor. She called my ob when I couldn't speak through the contractions. And now, she was whispering in the dark with my husband, talking about me in the past tense like I was already some gone thing. I couldn't breathe. I didn't move. Didn't even blink. The baby stirred against me, and I instinctively swayed, because some part of me was still trying to be her safe space even while I was shattering. I pressed the speaker harder against my ear. The static swirled again, then her voice broke through. She still thinks this was all for her, that we did this for her. She wanted a baby, Jack said, almost defensively. Sure, Tyra replied, but she never asked where the egg came from or why I volunteered so fast. Then silence. Heavy. Calculated. I looked down at my daughter. My daughter. Warm. Real. Mine. And for the first time since I gave birth to her, I felt like someone might try to take her back. If you asked me 6 months ago what love looked like, I would have pointed at Jack and Tara without blinking. My husband. My best friend. They were the two people who held me together when I couldn't do it myself. The two who made me believe I was still whole when my body told me otherwise. Infertility is a thief. It doesn't just take your hopes. It steals your sense of self in tiny, untraceable ways. 1 month at a time. 1 pea stick at a time. It turned sex into strategy. Romance into routine. Ovulation into a calendar notification I'd whisper about instead of kiss through. We tried everything. Supplements. Acupuncture. 3 rounds of IVF. I kept track of every hormone level like I was cramming for the biggest exam of my life. But it didn't matter. Nothing stuck. And every time I saw blood on the toilet paper, I folded a part of myself away. Jack didn't cry. Not once. Not even when I did. He just held me. Quietly. At first I took that as strength. Later, I realized it was distance. I started breaking down at weird times. At the pharmacy, in Trader Joe's when the baby aisle was restocked, in the middle of texting someone I'm fine. And then Tara came over one night, holding takeout and wine I couldn't drink and said, "You know, I've been thinking, maybe there's another way." I blinked at her. She sat across from me on the couch, curling her legs under her like she owned the place. She always did that. "Have you two thought about an egg donor?" I made a weird face. Laughed. "Like from a stranger." "No," she said, "like from me." And then she paused. Just long enough for me to feel the room go still. "I mean, we're practically sisters. You know me, you know I'm healthy. It's still your baby, you'd carry her, raise her. But this way, it might actually work." I remember Jack looking up from his phone just then. Not surprised. Not confused. Just listening. I should have noticed. Should have felt the script had already been written. But I was too tired. Too hollow. Too grateful to have options. A week later, we were in a clinic. They called it a known donor program. It was sold to me like peace of mind. I wouldn't have to wonder about the donor's background, health, or personality. "This is someone you trust," the counselor said with a warm smile. "You'll be connected for life. That can be beautiful." Beautiful. It felt like it at first. Tara came to the appointments. She joked about our shared baby. She held my hand during the embryo transfer, like we were at some sacred ritual. She sent me affirmations every morning. "Grow, little one, you're already loved." Sometimes I wondered if it was too much. If her presence in this was oversized. But every time I hesitated, she stepped back, just enough to make me feel like I was the one overthinking. She was helping, right? That's what everyone said. "You're so lucky to have her. Not many women would do that for a friend. She's like family." Yeah. Exactly. Family. She was there when we picked paint colors for the nursery. She helped Jack assemble the crib. She even stayed overnight the week I hit 37 weeks, just in case I went into labor. And when the contractions started at 2 a.m. Jack drove. Tara rode in the backseat with me, holding my hand and whispering, "You're so close, you're doing this." And I believed her. Because I didn't know the story I was starring in wasn't mine. The day after I heard them whispering, I did what all betrayed women are taught to do. I pretended everything was fine. I changed diapers. Warmed milk. Sang songs off-key. Laughed at my husband's jokes over breakfast like I hadn't spent the night gripping a baby monitor like it was a grenade. Because what was I supposed to do? Storm into the guest room at 3 a.m. and scream, "So, how long have you two been co-parenting behind my back?" No. Instead, I watched. Quietly. And that's when I noticed all the things I hadn't let myself see before. Like how Jack never referred to our daughter as Peach until Tara started doing it. How Tara always reached for her with the kind of entitlement that didn't match friendship. How Jack would glance at her across the room when I said things like, "She looks just like me." Like he was waiting for the punchline. Or maybe he was the punchline. I told myself I was being paranoid. Hormonal. Tired. So I started writing it all down. Every glance. Every sentence that made my skin crawl. Every weird moment I'd brushed off for months and told myself I was being dramatic. And then I stopped pretending. For one afternoon, Jack had left his laptop open. I wasn't looking for anything, not really. I just needed to feel like I wasn't crazy. But when I opened his personal folder, there it was. Legal, egg agreement, final signed. I clicked before I could second guess myself. Inside were scanned copies of forms I'd seen before. Standard, sterile, full of phrases like waives parental rights and no claim to custody. But next to them, another document. Tara's letter of intent. 1 page. Handwritten. Scanned and labeled neatly. The first line read, "I understand that by donating, I'm offering a piece of myself, not just biologically, but emotionally." My stomach dropped. She wrote about how deeply connected she felt to the child. How co-creating this life with Jack was the most meaningful thing she'd ever done. How she'd always feel a maternal instinct toward the baby, even if she was mom in the legal sense. Even if she shared that title. Shared. Like it was a brand. A job. A prize. And Jack. He'd signed off on every page, including one where they'd made a note, handwritten, not typed. If disclosure occurs later, we remain aligned in our intent to present this as a gift born from love and necessity. A plan. To manage me. To script my emotional reaction in advance. I wanted to throw the laptop across the room. But our daughter was napping. And I didn't want her first memory to be glass-shattering. So instead, I opened a blank document and started typing every horrible word I just read. Then I emailed it to myself. Subject line: "If I ever gaslight myself again, read this." Because I needed proof. Not of what they did, but of what I lived through. It didn't explode like I thought it would. No screaming. No thrown mugs. No viral TikTok moment. Just a quiet night. A click of the dishwasher. A folded burp cloth. And me, standing at the edge of our bed with Tara's letter in my hand. He was scrolling his phone, half laughing at a meme, until he looked up and saw my face. "What is it?" I didn't answer. Just held out the page. He took it slowly, read the first few lines, blinked. Didn't deny it. Didn't say, "Where did you find this?" Didn't say, "You misunderstood." He knew. He handed it back like it burned. "You went through my files." I raised an eyebrow. "That's your first concern." Silence. He sat on the edge of the bed, rubbed the bridge of his nose like he was about to start a long, exhausting phone call. "How long?" I asked. It wasn't. "How long?" "A beat. Since after the second failed transfer." I nodded. Not because I accepted it. Because I'd already guessed. So before she offered to be the donor. He nodded. She was just around, you were going through so much, and she understood. She understood what? I snapped. That you were weak, or that I was inconvenient. His eyes snapped up. "Don't make this uglier than it is. Jack, I carried your child, I bled for her, and you were already sleeping with her while telling me we were a team." He looked away. "It wasn't supposed to be like this." "It never is," I whispered. "We didn't plan to fall in love." There it was. Fall in love. As if that made it noble. As if that justified building a child out of betrayal. I sat on the dresser. Hands shaking. Mouth dry. So what was I? He didn't answer. A surrogate, a cover story, the legally convenient womb. He flinched. "Good. You both sat in that delivery room and watched me scream your daughter into the world while holding hands like this with some poetic ménage à trois. And you think I'm being dramatic." He stood. "You're twisting it." "No, Jack, you already did." He sighed. "You wanted a baby, we gave you one." The rage was quiet. Cold. "You didn't give me anything. You hijacked my life and called it love." I walked to the crib. Watched our daughter breathe. Small. Steady. "She's mine," I whispered. "I'm her mother, not some fantasy you two cooked up to feel enlightened." He nodded. "No one's taking her from you." And for the first time, I believed him. Because they didn't want to take her. They wanted to co-own her. Like a shared Google Doc. Something editable. But she wasn't born for them. She was born from me. And that's something they'll never understand. The thing no one tells you about betrayal is that it doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with paperwork. That night after Jack confessed, I didn't throw anything. I didn't cry. I didn't scream into a pillow like they do in movies. I just laid next to my daughter on the nursery floor, stared at the ceiling fan, and tried to remember who I was before I became someone's womb. The next morning, I went through our daughter's birth documents. They were tucked in a labeled folder behind insurance forms and pediatrician info. One tab was marked name confirmation. I remember filling it out in the hospital, post-epidural, slightly dazed, grinning through exhaustion. Tara had suggested the middle name, her mother, actually. Jack had said it sounded grounded. I was too tired to fight. But now I saw it for what it was. A placeholder. A silent signature on a story I didn't co-write. So I went online. Pulled up the official form, petition for amendment of birth record. It was quiet revenge. Unassuming. Sanctioned by the state of California. I filled it out line by line. New middle name, Ruth. My mother. The real matriarch. The one who never smiled in photos, but could fix a sink with one hand and flip off a man with the other. She died 3 years ago. I hadn't said her name aloud in months. But writing it felt like breathing again. Later that day, I called the Vital Records office. Asked what documents they'd need. Why the change, the woman asked. I could hear her typing. I paused, then answered. Because the name on the certificate doesn't reflect the truth anymore. She didn't ask anything else. Just gave me a list and an address. That night, Jack noticed the packet on the counter. What's this? A correction. He lifted the form. Read it. Eyes paused on the new middle name. You could have talked to me about this. Like you talked to me about screwing my best friend while I was injecting hormones in my thighs. He shut up. For once. Tara texted me that same evening. Hey, I heard about the name thing. I didn't respond. So she followed up. I just hope we can all be adults about this. Adults. She called herself an adult while trying to brand my child like an Etsy collaboration. I typed, then deleted, then finally sent. She's not ours, she never was. She didn't reply after that. But a week later, she posted a story holding a baby-shaped candle with a caption. The universe always knows what's meant to be yours. I blocked her. Everywhere. Because I wasn't playing anymore. Not the cool wife. Not the spiritual bestie. Not the woman who turns betrayal into a blessing for everyone else. I didn't want a new chapter. I wanted a corrected record. And that's exactly what I was building. One form, one boundary, one sentence at a time. Our daughter's first birthday was always going to be bittersweet. But I didn't realize it would taste like cold frosting and fresh humiliation. Jack wanted a backyard party. Just something simple, he said. Family, friends, some balloons. He meant our friends. Our family. But what he really meant was his story, repackaged as a celebration. And of course, Tara would be there. She was such a big part of this journey, he said. I didn't argue. Didn't flinch. Just said, sure. Because I had a plan. The week before the party, I dropped off cupcakes at daycare. Wrote the new middle name on her cubby tag. Filed the last of the paperwork. Rehearsed exactly 12 words in the mirror until I could say them without shaking. The day of the party, I dressed my daughter in soft yellow. A small daisy barrette in her hair. Ruth would have loved that color. I wore white. Not bridal white. Not innocent white. Declaration white. People began to arrive, clinking gifts, compliments, disposable cameras. Tara wore blush pink. Of course she did. She handed me a gift bag with a tiny onesie that said, "Loved by many." I nodded politely. Didn't thank her. She reached for my daughter with open arms. "Can I?" I looked her straight in the eye and said, "Not today." She blinked like I slapped her. Good. I could feel the weight of her performance cracking. Later, under a plastic banner that said, "Our little miracle turns one," Jack tapped a glass with his fork. "Hey, everyone. Just wanted to say thanks for being part of this first year. It's been a journey." He glanced at Tara. "And we've been so lucky to have so much love around this little girl." People clapped. And I realized they believed this. The audience, they thought they were attending the ending of a fairy tale, not the burial of a lie. So I stood, held my daughter against my hip, and said, "Actually, can I say something?" Jack looked unsure. Tara blinked too fast. I walked to the center of the yard. Took a breath. "Thank you all for being here today. Some of you know the whole story, most of you don't, but this little girl." I looked down at her. She tugged my necklace. "She isn't a product of us. She's not a miracle of shared love. She's mine, and her name is Ruth now, after my mother." A silence. Even the wind stopped. If you helped bring her into the world just to take ownership of a narrative, this is where that ends. My voice didn't crack. She is not a project, she is not a trophy, and she is not yours. Tara stepped forward, breath catching. "Ellie, I didn't let her finish. This story, this one you both tried to write over me." I looked at Jack. I just burned the last draft. And then I walked away. Past the cake. Past the guests. Past the fake coups and Instagram smiles. My daughter on my hip. My name's still mine. And theirs. Now synonymous with silence. It's been over a year since I heard my name whispered through a baby monitor. I still have it. The monitor. It's in a drawer I never open, but I don't throw it away. Not because I'm sentimental. Because sometimes you keep the weapon. Not as a trophy. As a reminder. People love a comeback story. They want to hear how I forgave. How we found a way to co-parent peacefully. How I took the high road. But here, the truth. There is no high road. Just the one you pave yourself. And sometimes, it runs straight through the wreckage. After the party, Jack stopped calling me overreactive. Stopped suggesting we should talk about boundaries. Stopped trying to narrate my motherhood like he still had access. He emails about visitation. I respond with dates. We don't speak in person. He once tried to apologize 3 months after the birthday. It was on a Tuesday. He stood in my doorway, holding a small plant like that could photosynthesize closure. I made mistakes. No shit. I still want to be in her life. She's not a subscription you can pause and resume, Jack. He left the plant. I threw it away. Tara moved. I heard she's doing energy work now. Of course she is. Probably still telling people she helped create a family. That she gave the ultimate gift. That I was grateful, once. Let her tell her side to whoever still believes people like her only destroy by accident. I don't correct it. Because I don't need to. Every time my daughter says mama and runs into my arms, the truth speaks louder than a caption ever could. Her birth certificate says Ruth now. I keep a copy in my glove compartment. Not because I think anyone will challenge it, but because I don't trust systems or people to protect what women build. Sometimes I stand over her crib at night and just watch. Not like a mom. Like a guardian. Because that's what I became. Not just of her. Of the story. Of the truth. People say I seem calmer now. Maybe I do. Maybe it's because I stopped asking for permission to be the main character in my own motherhood. Maybe it's because I stopped offering empathy to people who used it as currency. Maybe it's because I remembered that being a mother isn't just about love. It's about claiming. And I claimed her. Fully. Permanently. In public. Not out of rage. But out of something deeper. Reclamation. I don't light candles. I don't burn sage. I don't write open letters to the universe asking, why? I file forms. I block numbers. I name my child after a woman who never needed soft language to say hard things. One day, when she's old enough to ask, I'll tell her the truth. Not the headlines. Not the gossip. Just this. You were born from a complicated situation. But you belong to someone who chose you with her whole body. And protected you with her whole name. Looking back now, maybe I should have said less. Or maybe I finally said enough. Subscribe to my Mia's Stories YouTube channel for raw, emotional stories and authentic insights that encourage healing, growth, and understanding. Don't forget to be part of a supportive space where stories inspire and lessons resonate. What do you think about this story? Let us know in the comments. Your opinion truly matters to us, and we're here for you.